Objects found in the desert that were actually worth a ton of money. But before we start, please make sure to subscribe to m&rtv and hit the bell so you never miss any upload from us. Also, leave a like right now. A few words come to mind when you think of the desert: hot, dry, and barren. It's usually full of nothingness, and those who do brave the sand and heat usually come back with just a sunburn and an empty water bottle. But sometimes these explorers return with much more than they could have ever hoped for. For a lucky few, these valuable items found in the desert would be worth every sweaty step. Discovered in Israel in 2010, this coin was dubbed by researchers as the most valuable ever discovered. The 2,200-year-old coin is believed to have been worth a half-year's salary during its circulation. This rifle, manufactured in 1882 and pictured in this 1969 painting titled The Homesteaders, was discovered resting against a tree in Nevada's Great Basin National Park over a century ago. Its value is still astronomically greater than the $35 to $50 it was worth back in the 19th century. Said to have contained the body of James the Just, brother of Jesus of Nazareth, this religious artifact was discovered in a cave in the Silwan area of Jerusalem. Since its authenticity was never verified, it's valued at a shockingly low price. Following the video game crash of 1983, gaming company Atari decided to bury its unsold games in the New Mexico desert. When the landfill was excavated, the surviving cartridges were auctioned off. Formed only by lightning strikes, volcanic activity, and meteor impacts, Libyan glass is considered one of the rarest minerals on Earth and can only be found in the deserts of Libya. This art installation makes its permanent home just over a mile from Valentine, Texas. The lone store, which is inaccessible, is fully stocked with high-end Prada wares, shoes, and handbags. Even Beyoncé has visited. This meteorite formed fragments after it struck the Earth during prehistoric times. Bits of it were used by natives to craft tools and weapons, and today it's worth a ton of money. In true treasure hunting fashion, a pair of archaeologists discovered a large wooden chest in California's Death Valley. The chest contained 80 coins, a hymnal, baby shoes, a pistol, pottery, and a letter from a lost pioneer. Considered one of Australia's greatest treasures, this otherworldly opal was found in 1946 in a small desert town of Coober Pedy, South Australia. The rough gem weighs in at just under 5,000 carats and is roughly the size of 2 cricket balls. The set for the 1923 film was destroyed and buried shortly after production. However, in 2014, a large sphinx head emerged from the sand in Santa Barbara, prompting a recovery effort to completely excavate the lost city. In a land of wealth like Dubai, million-dollar cars are about as expendable as Hot Wheels. This Ferrari Enzo was abandoned in the middle of the desert. Locals believe the vehicle's owner may have actually been on the run from the law. This gold nugget was discovered in 1989 by a prospector using only a cheap Radio Shack metal detector. Weighing in at 389.4 troy ounces, it remains the largest surviving gold nugget in the Western Hemisphere. The story of the young King Tut is one of the most well-known in history, and the treasure trove he left behind is no less legendary. Tut's mask and sarcophagus alone are worth more than any archaeological find in history. In 1965, an anonymous prospector claimed to have discovered Pegleg Smith's stash of black gold. This prospector's find, valued at around $3 million today, has inspired countless other treasure hunters to search for Pegleg's legendary lost mine. In a strange turn of events, a group of De Beers miners inadvertently found an even greater treasure at the bottom of a dried lagoon, a 500-year-old sunken ship. The ship, once belonging to the King of Portugal, was loaded with gold, tin, ivory tusks, and nearly 44,000 pounds of copper ingots. Following a 1992 pipeline oil spill in Midland, Texas, the Shell company sold off the rights to that pipeline and quietly buried the proof in a nearby desert. The documents were discovered, however, and Shell was forced to pay some hefty litigation costs. In 2005, Scott Taylor discovered a massive fortune, but was unwilling to reveal its location to the U.S. government. As a result, Taylor never cashed in on a find of 280 gold bricks, 2 Civil War-era rifles, a 6-shooter, and a load of dynamite. During a sweep for weapons of mass destruction in the Iraqi desert, American troops stumbled upon 30 Iraqi fighter jets buried in the sand. Evidently, they were ordered to be buried by Saddam Hussein so that he could hide them from the U.S. forces. He planned to unbury them after the fighting, but, well, one of the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Copper Scroll, is said to be a treasure map to riches. This includes a trove of 65 tons of silver and 26 tons of gold hidden away by the Essenes during the Roman conquest of Jerusalem. Yes, in our hearts, $2 billion is greater than priceless. No matter how cool history is, a U.S. aluminum executive chartered a plane over the Mexican desert after hearing the country had a tremendous aluminum stash. So what did this executive find? Nearly 6% of the world's aluminum supply, enough to make 77 billion beer cans. But how does this compare to the most valuable items found in abandoned places? Whether the owner didn't understand the true value of the item, misplaced it by mistake, or passed away without retrieving it, these 20 insanely valuable artifacts and objects somehow landed in abandoned buildings or bizarre hiding spots, and whoever found them cashed in big. During a snowstorm, an urban explorer entered a home that had been abandoned 30 years prior undetected. He found decades-old photographs, retro trinkets, and $6,800 in rolled-up cash, which he was kind enough to return to the home's previous owner. Nick DeMola, left, of Queens, New York, was hired to clear clutter from a deceased artist's apartment in Manhattan. There, in a scuffed cardboard barrel, he found a Mayan artifact valued at $16,500. Makes you inspired to tidy up your attic, huh? A recycling center worker named Mike Rogers found $22,000 in savings bonds at the bottom of a scrap metal barrel. Thankfully, he and his wife returned them to their rightful owner. It was only the right thing to do, he told ABC News. Amazingly enough, the world's oldest Rolls-Royce was just gathering dust in a barn until 2015. With its 20-horsepower engine, the unique prototype originally logged 20,000 miles before being retired in 1925. In 2011, an unsecured laptop found in a dumpster revealed compromising emails sent by former Goldman Sachs trader Fabrice Tour. It helped the SEC win a lawsuit against the face of mortgage securities fraud. You can't put a price on justice. These posters hung on the walls of almost every candy and drugstore in the 20th century. A Wisconsin police officer found one in a barn on his property and sold it to the Mile High Card Company. When a Redditor user discovered a locked safe hidden in the closet of his deceased grandparents' Tennessee farmhouse, he hit the jackpot. It contained jewels, rare coins, and silver bars. During a home renovation, contractor David Gonzalez found an issue of this iconic comic, which featured the debut of Superman, inside the walls of a Minnesotan home. The back cover had been ripped off, so it only fetched a portion of its true value. Christian de Boudoir purchased the late drug lord's Miami mansion and found this safe buried in rubble. De Boudoir speculated that it had gold or diamonds inside. However, he hasn't revealed what was inside. We can only imagine it was a lot of moolah or drugs. For 20 years, a home sat unoccupied in Pennsylvania until the former homeowner's daughter hired appraiser Jeff Beitelman to comb through it for valuables. He found coins dating from 1793 through 1964 stuffed in a hole in a wall. Tucked away in a boarded-up projection booth of an abandoned Long Island movie theater, Steve Wilkin uncovered this vintage poster. It was a true piece of Hollywood history, as the poster's buyer dubbed it. "We never thought it to be that important, to be honest," Maurice Owens said of the ancient sword he found in an old family barn. But an archaeologist disagreed, believing it was owned by someone at a high level in society 2,600 years ago. A man from San Jose, California bought an abandoned storage unit for $1,100. Inside, he found a blue Rubbermaid container stuffed with $500,000 worth of rare coins and gold and silver bars. On her morning walk through Manhattan, Elizabeth Gibson saw a painting discarded on the curb. She took it home and discovered it was a famous masterpiece. It sold at Sotheby's Latin American art sale for $1 million. 83-year-old Edward St. John regularly dug through the local convenience store's trash looking for discarded lotto tickets, and in 2005, it paid off. He found a Hold'em poker scratch-off ticket worth $1 million. While the impressive bust of the Scottish Member of Parliament now rests proudly in the Louvre, officials originally discovered it, propping open the door to an industrial estate in 1998. Urban explorers scouting an abandoned Detroit warehouse discovered crates packed with old Topps cards. While they found no individually valuable card, the whole lot was worth millions. When Howard Mann blindly bought contents from a memorabilia stuffed warehouse, he inadvertently obtained 273 unreleased Jackson 5 songs. However, the find landed him in a legal battle over the rights to the music. Cage's copy of this insanely valuable comic was stolen from his house in 2000, only to turn up in an abandoned storage unit a decade later. His pristine copy was the first comic ever to sell for over $2 million. The painting of this French courtesan surfaced 71 years after her death in 2010. In all those years, it had never left the quaint Paris apartment the subject had passed on to her daughter. Still, this is a paltry sum compared to $2 billion in Chinese aluminum.